So in just a second, I'm going to share with you just a very pretty simple, straightforward spreadsheet where I looked at a couple of things. I looked at where we were in the beginning of the school year in terms of our MAP, our assessment. And the MAP assessment is the measure of academic progress and performance. It's an assessment that we purchase as a district. And it gives us a snapshot of where the kids are compared to each other and compared to national norms. So what I did on this chart, and I can certainly add more information if people need it, but what I did in this chart was I gave you a column of for both reading and mathematics, where what the national benchmark, mean score benchmark is for spring of 2022. And then I gave you where we were in fall and where we are now in spring on our assessments. So it's a comparison against, it's a mean score. So the middle of the road for the nationally and for our groups. Some students obviously were higher than that. Some students are lower than that. It just, you know, this gives you a snapshot of our overall growth. As a follow-up to this meeting, we will be sending out individual score reports for your child, which will show their growth, not just in the overall category of reading, language arts, mathematics, but in individual content areas. So in mathematics, if they're struggling with measurement or they're really good at measurement, it'll show you that. If they're good at algebraic thinking or operations, it'll show that for you as well. So you're all going to get that anyway. You'll get your child's individual score report. But this tonight was really meant to be an overall snapshot of how we've done this year and where we've come over the course of the year. So I'm going to share that in just a second. Before I do that, just again, just a couple of other things. We do benchmark assessments 3 times a year. We do them in September or October. We do them again January, February, and we do them again at the end of the year. We're doing them right now. We did also just finish the state testing. We won't, I don't expect those results until probably August or September. But as soon as we get them, we will get those out to you. In addition to that, at Valley View, we do a number of assessments like the developmental reading assessment, right? And that's a purely reading assessment that gives us an idea of a snapshot of where your child is reading at which grade level. We do some math assessments as well. And we do the DIBELS, which is a screening assessment to see kind of where everybody is to start. So let me share my screen. I will share with you the one second. I'm going to shut my camera off for 1 second just to get to this. Hold on. Okay, there we are. So as I said, I did a fairly simple spreadsheet. I didn't want to give you a ton of statistics tonight. As I said, this spreadsheet, along with some other information, will be on our website after the meeting tonight. But I wanted to give you just a rough idea of where we are and how far we've come over the course of the year. Just a couple of caveats. So kindergarten, you'll see here that we have a national spring mean score, which means that's the mean score for all students at the various grade levels in the spring administration. It's kind of the middle of the road, which is the average score for the country, essentially, and each grade level. I put a little asterisk next to the kindergarten. Even though this category says fall 2021 median score for reading, we don't administer the kindergarten assessment until winter. So this number is actually a winter score, and then this one is the spring score. So if you're looking across here, if you look at the blue column, that gives you the light blue column, that gives you the grade level. If you look at here, this kind of salmony pink column, that gives you, that's what the national average score is on this assessment. The yellow column tells you where we were in fall, or in the case of kindergarten, in the winter. And then this kind of gray blue column tells you where we are now at the end of the year. So if I look over here into the pink column for kindergarten, nationally speaking, the score, and it's called a RIT score on this particular assessment. It really is just it's a numerical figure that says, here's what the average student in kindergarten can do in the area of reading by the end of their kindergarten year. So they should have an average score of 153.1. If you look to here, when we started assessing our students in this case in winter, in the other case, of the case of every other grade level in fall, we were at a 146.3. So we weren't, by mid-year, what that tells us is that we were fairly close to being on average, to being right on track with the rest of the country nationally. By spring, by the most recent assessment, our score on average is a 157.2. What that means is that by the end of the school year, our students scored above the national average on average again, in the overall area of reading for kindergarten. We're happy about that, right? They've made progress. They've made progress over the course of the year. And I will tell you, kind of anecdotally speaking, and when you get your individual child's report, obviously some of them scored higher or lower than others, but overall, we're very pleased with their progress. They made the amount of progress that we would expect them to make in a year. And it's, it's a big class this year in kindergarten, and a lot of them didn't have preschool experiences. So the fact that they made that much growth in 1 year, we're really proud of, we're really pleased with. When I moved down here to first grade, the average score, the mean score at the end of the year is a 171.4. When we started in fall, we were at 155.9. And again, we have, at this point in the year, we have exceeded the national average at a 176.5. Again, this whole top part of this is for reading. And we're very pleased with that. So let me talk a little bit more about second grade. So in second grade, was our biggest area of concern going into this year. They were the class that we considered to be the most impacted academically by the shutdown. These were the students who, in March of 2020, when we closed school for the balance of the year, they were in kindergarten. They missed out on a lot of experiences and a lot of educational experiences over the last year and a half. The average across the nation for this grade level is a 185.6. Let me also share that these are norms based on pre-pandemic norms. So these are not adjusted expectations based on what we have seen over the last couple of years. So that's a truer figure of what the average student is in second grade nationally. In fall, we were at 170.6. We were concerned. You can see the amount of growth. They've grown significantly. Again, we are above the national average on that, and they're with an aggregate score of 187. Moving on to third grade, you'll see it was 197 is the national average. We were at 187.9. And at the end of the year now, we're at 201.2, again, above average. Fourth grade was an interesting year for us, interesting grade cohort of students. So at the end of the year, national average was a 204.8. We started above the end of the year benchmark in fourth grade. So at the beginning of the year, our median score was already above the national benchmark. So there's not as much growth between this score and this score, but that does put us significantly above on the median, the national benchmark. Our fourth grade class this year is a class of students that are very serious. and they've done very well. As I move into Wood Glen, I will share with you that these numbers right now are mid-year numbers. They're winter numbers. They're not end of the year numbers. I don't have all of that data in yet, as I said. So what I will do, I didn't want to postpone this anymore because we're coming up on the end of the year. But once I publish this chart onto our website, within a couple of days, probably by the end of the day tomorrow, if not the next day, I will have all of the specific Wood Glen statistics. But they were in reading. I don't have as good of numbers in mathematics. So I wrote, you'll see down here that I wrote pending in those categories. But in the area of reading language arts for 5th grade, the end of the year benchmark was a 210.9. We were at 205.3 in fall, and by mid-year we were already over the end of the year benchmark at 216.2. So I would expect that when we get the final results from the end of the year benchmark, that they will also be over that. You see similar kinds of statistics for 6th grade. We were at 211 to start the year. Again, at the mid-year point, we were slightly above the grade level benchmark at a 216.2. Moving on to 7th grade, 218.36. Started the year at 217 and mid-year we were at 222. And in 8th grade, 221.6 is the national end of the year benchmark. We were already above that mid-year, and we continue to grow above, or I'm sorry, at the beginning of the year, and we continue to grow above that at the mid-year mark. So that all of that so far is reading and language arts. Let me scroll up and I will show you mathematics. So as you see down here, I have pending for grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. I don't have enough data to run the report right now because they're still in the process of taking the final math sections between today and tomorrow. As I said, I will add that data to this chart and publish that on our website as soon as I get it. However, I will tell you that the K-4 statistics are accurate to the end of the year. We still have some kindergarten students to test, so this number will likely change. But for mathematics, the end of the year benchmark is 157.1. We're at 157.2, which puts us right on average. Again, that's not a full sampling, so that number will change once we finish the balance of the mathematics assessments. For grade 1, we started at 164. The end of the year expectation for average is 176, and we were at 179.6. For 2nd grade, the end of the year average expectation is 189.4, and currently we are at 189.4, so we're right on average. I think one of the things that we've all that we at Valley View have talked about is a need to, over the next year, reevaluate our curriculum materials in math to make sure that they still meet our needs. It's been a few years since we've adopted a new curriculum, and that will be our project starting in September to make sure that we have the appropriate materials to really help our kids move along. Math was relatively speaking, was our lower area, although we're still on average in most grade levels. We want to make sure that we continue that growth.
Many ways to eat a food. Introduction.
So 3rd grade, moving on to 3rd grade, the end of the year average was 201.8, and we're at 202.3. In 4th grade, the end of the year average was a 210.5, and we're at 217.4. So you'll see here that these are the end of the year expectations for 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And I will tell you we were slightly below in 5th grade coming in at the beginning of the year, slightly below in 6th grade, pretty much right on with 7th grade, and slightly above in 8th grade. As I said, I apologize, but I don't have the final data to be able to pull into the report for Wood Glen at this point. But I'll be collecting that over the next couple of days. I will add it to this report, and I will share that with you on our website. So before I move off of this chart, does anybody have specific questions about this? And then we can talk in general about assessments and what we learn from them. And I'll give you some other examples of things, excuse me, that we talk about when we talk about assessment. So any questions? I'm going to stop this.
All right, I have a question.
Yeah.
So map growth, is this assessment a pre and a post, and then you come up with the full score? Is it a growth score, or is just a one-time full test, and then based on they do, you come up with a score?
So the scores that the specific scores that you see here are averages, but it is a growth score. So the way the map assessment works, it's an electronic assessment. And so when a second grader, for example, takes the test, or a third grader, it'll start out with a question that is slightly below grade level for them, maybe a half a step below grade level. So a reading question, for example. Let's say your a third grade student, your second grade student gets the answer correct. It will give them another question that is slightly below grade level, perhaps a little bit higher. Let's say they get that correct. It'll bump them up until they're on grade level. Then it'll ask them a series of questions that are on grade level. If they continue to get them correct, it's going to bump them above grade level by a quarter of a step, a half a step, and continues along that way until they top out. And then let's say that's their test in fall. What the test then does is give us a predictor of the amount of growth that we expect that student to make over the course of that year. And so we can predict, our teachers can use that data to get a growth target. They can even analyze it down to specific content areas. So for example, in the area of mathematics, for example, I'm looking at sixth grade report for now. So they're asked questions on operations and algebraic thinking, number and operations, measurement and data, and geometry. Within those four broad categories, there are specific sub-skills. So measurement and data, they're going to talk about reading a graph. They're going to ask them questions about their ability to interpret data. And there are a number of subcategories within that. The teachers have the ability to run a standard by standard analysis of exactly what skills a student is missing, what skills they're strong in, so that we can plan for instruction. And then over time, it gives us a measurement of where they are relative to their own growth and to the national standard. So it's designed to be a growth assessment. The RIT score, which is the actual numerical score that I just showed you, we talk about it in terms of ready for instruction today. What are those things that your child is ready to learn about today as they stand, based on their skills, based on how they've scored? So Mr. Bush, I hope I answered your question there.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Any other questions about that chart or anything else before I kind of move on to some of the other things I want to discuss with you? Okay, so just looking at again, looking at some of the specific charts. So I'll go to a seventh grade, for example. The areas and the areas are different. The instructional performance areas are different based on the grade level. So I described the ones to you for sixth grade. In seventh grade, they're looking at operations and algebraic thinking. That's going to be a part of pretty much every assessment. Geometry is going to be pretty much a part of every assessment. But in seventh grade, they move away from some of the other ones, and they move into looking at things like real and complex number systems, statistics and probability. So you see the level of sophistication of the mathematics goes up, obviously, as the grade level goes up. When you get to things like language arts and reading, I'll give you an eighth grade example. So it's things like literary text, key ideas and details. Well, that's part of almost every grade level reading assessment. The ability to pick out information from text is a critical skill that we all need. As adults, we need it, so our kids need it too. And that's one of the areas that we look at. They also, in 8th grade, they also look at language, craft, and structure. They look at informational text. So you're looking at literary text and informational text. So you're looking at kind of that nonfiction piece and that fiction piece to be able to become a literate and effective reader. They look again at language, craft, and structure for both of those things. And they also now start to look more heavily at the acquisition and use of vocabulary. So overall, this assessment, it's one of our tools, right? It's not the only thing that we do. And obviously your child's teachers, they assess kids every day. Every time they talk to a student about their writing or talk to a student about their mathematics, they're assessing them in some way to get an idea of how they think about things, how they respond to questions, how they're processing the information that we're trying to give them, how they come up with their own thoughts and ideas. But this is a tool that kind of helps teachers in a very objective, detached way, gives them some information about what they need to do next. One of the things we talk about with teachers is how the importance of what we leave out of the curriculum as much as what we bring into the curriculum. So if I have a class full of first graders, for example, and on my first grade assessments, I know, for example, that just get to a first grade test here. So if in language arts and reading, for example, in grade 1, if I know that I look at the areas of foundational skills, language and writing, literature and informational, vocabulary use, and functions. So if I go into that language and writing area, and all of my students score really, really well on those particular questions, I know that I can skip to a higher level of content for them. I know that I can perhaps skip some things, some of the foundational skills that I don't need to enforce as much, and I can move at a faster pace. Conversely, if I look at my individual scores for my students, and I find that they're struggling with some of those foundational skills, which frankly is what we found at the beginning of the year, because they were lacking some of the experiences that they would have had, that we can really focus on those foundational skills. One of this led to, at the elementary level, doing this and our INRS process, it led to us putting some additional assessments in place to really take a look at what we call phonemic awareness, the kids' abilities to play with language, hear the difference between sounds, understand the relationship between letters and sounds, and do things like rhyme and do things like make up nonsense words and read nonsense words, because we identified through these and some of the other assessments that we use that those foundational skills were relative areas of weakness for a lot of students. And when we were able to remediate those very specifically, we saw growth. For those students in RTI, for example, where we very closely monitor their progress and assess more often than some other students, we found that we put some reading fluency programs in place that really, really did seem to help our kids, and some intense work in the foundational skills through a program that is called Foundations, which is the base level of reading. We do some of the same analysis at the upper elementary and early middle school level, but all of our teachers have the ability to run these reports and to go through all of the skills that are in the MAP reports that they get. So I don't know if anybody has. I know we have a few teachers staff members on here as well. I won't make anybody speak, but if anybody has anything else to contribute or any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. So as I said, a few things are going to happen from here. So first of all, you'll be getting your child's report card very shortly. The end of school is coming quickly. And so you'll see that report card. I will tell you that one of the things that came out of strategic planning, our meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago, is that we will be taking a look at the structure of report cards, in particular at Valley View next year, to make sure that they are more reflective of how we're teaching and the kinds of things that we want to communicate to teachers. You know, letter grades don't have as much meaning or kind of meat behind them as some of the other grades or progress reporting that we can do for parents. So we're gonna modify that over the course of next year so that we can give parents better information. Also, so in addition to the report cards, you will be receiving a family report for each of your children on this MAP score. It's got, you know, it's pretty easy to read. It's actually a good report. It's as a parent, I would have loved to have had it for my child, but I think you'll find that helpful. And again, it gives some of the specific subcategories of areas that each child is doing well with, and some of the things that they may be struggling with or maybe not having as much success with. So that'll be out alongside the report card before the end of the school year. So one of the other things that we're doing, and you know, I'm working on the format, and over the course of this summer, I will be working with our tech people to get it in place, is a live, relatively live, because we don't assess every day, but when we do benchmark assessments, that there will be a kind of a dashboard on our website that you can point to and kind of see how we're doing as a school over the course of the year. You know, obviously I can't put individual student information there for confidentiality reasons, but you're always also welcome to contact me, and I can run the most recent reports that I have for any child. I do need to wait until the assessments are completed to run all of the reports. So that's why I don't have all of the data in here tonight for middle school, but I will have that within the next couple of days. And like I said, that will be on our website when we're done. Questions, concerns, suggestions? Is there anything that you need from us in terms of looking at assessment data that I haven't discussed that I can either give you the answer to or get the answer for you?
Jason, this
Yes.
is Stephanie. Hi. So I'm just wondering, for next year, based on this information, are you going to share in some way some things that you might be doing to try to help boost us up above the average, you know, to get to try to get the school overall? I know we're working on things in general and strategic planning, but I was just curious if there was anything specific targeted at these scores.
Yeah, so one of the things that we, you know, look, there's a, you know, kind of limited bandwidth of everybody this year. You know, we've still been in the throes of having to deal with COVID protocols and all that stuff. But in our, there's a couple of key things. I'm going to talk about scheduling for a second. I know that may not seem relevant, but it really is. So in our development of the schedules for next year, one of the things that we just talked about, I just talked about this with the staff at Valley View today. One of the things that we have in our schedule, that we're fortunate to have in our schedule, is that we have daily time where our teachers are off together by grade level or on together by grade level. That has been somewhat inconsistent this year for a couple of reasons. You know, we've had to pull people for coverages because we've been very short of subs this year overall, and that's true of every school district in the state. We've had some, you know, scheduling glitches with where we have specials, things like music and Spanish and phys ed and things like that. So we've had some inconsistency in our teachers' ability to meet all together as a group on a regular basis. We're going to correct that in the scheduling for next year. And one of the things that's going to allow us to do is have regular data meetings with teachers on a monthly basis. Here's what that will do, to Mrs. Cahill's point, is if we can really refine from a curriculum perspective what we leave out and how far we push as we work to differentiate instruction within our classrooms, we can really move those kids who are ready for higher order thinking skills, who are ready for more rigorous content. We can move them forward, but we need to give teachers clear opportunities to have those conversations, whether it's with me or one of the other administrators or even just with each other. But we need to put data in front of them on a more consistent, more strategic kind of basis. And as they plan for instruction week to week, month to month, we will be able to move them forward. The other thing, as I said at the beginning, is that we are looking at a lot of our curriculum materials, particularly in the area of mathematics, which relative to other subjects is our lower area. And we do feel that we need to do some updates there. So we will be analyzing that starting in the beginning of the school year with all of our teachers to see if we need to improve those materials. I think we do, quite frankly. I think we need to update what we have. And we'll do the same thing for language arts instruction as well, to make sure that we're being consistent grade level to grade level, and make sure that we give teachers opportunities to have those data conversations. And that planning process is really what is going to lead to better outcomes in terms of moving our kids forward. Look, and the other thing is just consistency, right? If we're in school and we have all of our kids in school consistently going forward, obviously that makes a difference in terms of how well they grasp individual concepts.
Just to follow up on that along those lines too, Jason, what about summer? Summer activity, or summer tutoring, or whatever we're doing with summer camp?
Yep. So that is that's actually coming out tomorrow. We've been putting it together for a month or so now. And the summer programs will include enrichment kinds of activities. They will include basic writing programs at both buildings. They will include basic mathematics, and there will also be kind of a flex period in there for anybody who needs some additional tutoring. The survey sign-up sheet will be out tomorrow to all the parents about that. And that'll give us an opportunity. Look, it's a voluntary thing, so we're not going to be able to necessarily target specific students who need certain things over the summer. But now that we have the programs in place, we can continue that tutoring into fall as well. So that will be, and there will be, look, for those of you who are trying to convince your children to attend, there will be fun things as well, right? So there will be some, games and sports and arts and crafts things being offered as well. And that program starts on July 11th, and runs until August 11th. So it'll run for 5 weeks. In addition to that, I'm meeting tomorrow morning with our kindergarten teachers. We are doing an incoming kindergarten student boot camp, and we're going to do the same thing for 5th and 6th graders. That will focus, the 5th and 6th graders will focus on readiness skills, the organization of middle school, the management of all of the things that they need to manage, and kindergarten will obviously be kind of learning how to be a student. So we're going to run that in smaller groups so that our kindergarten teachers can really get to know the kids before they enter kindergarten in September. So all of those things will be coming out tomorrow. Anything else that I haven't touched on that you are interested in or have a question about? All right, so over the next couple of days, like I said, as we finish up map testing, look for this on our website, and also look for your child's individual map score report. We'll be sending those home within the next couple of days, certainly before the end of the school year, when you'll be able to access your child's report card on Genesis. We are in the process of finalizing or working on anyway class placements for Valley View. Mr. Rubright is in the process of starting to develop schedules for Wood Glen for next year. All of those things will generally be published at the beginning of August as we finalize schedules and we get our whatever summer enrollment we have. Sometimes we do have changes in enrollment over the course of the summer. Not usually a great deal, but usually some. Any other questions or comments? All right, well, with that, I'm going to say thank you. I will stop recording in just a second. As always, I will say to you, if you have specific questions about your child, obviously call your child's teacher, contact your child's teacher. You're also always welcome to contact me. I'll be more than happy to help if anything, in any way that I can. And I know that I speak for Mr. Rubright when I say that at Wood Glen, please contact him as well. If you have a child with an IEP, you are welcome to contact your child's case manager, and subsequent to that, contact Mrs. Andrade, Colleen Andrade. She'll be more than happy to help you in any way that she can. All right. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night, and I will enjoy the rest of your school year.